For this first example, we're going to start with a bass track. I did something fairly simple. I used a Line 6 HX Stomp. All I did was use the SVT bass model that was in there. We're going to be using a speaker and microphone combination from the Speakermix Pro, and after that we're going to move on to different guitar tracks. So let's dive right in. In this example, we're going to keep it super simple. We're going to be listening to the mic placement. We're going to be trying out different microphones, and I'm going to blend in later on a room mic to get a bit more top end and attack from this particular cabinet. Now, as you can hear, there's a difference in tone, but it's not massive because the microphone I'm using is actually pretty dark. So I'm using the AKG D112. So I'm using this for a very specific purpose. I'm going to be using the Neumann KM84 to get some of that attack back, but also get some of the room in this particular sound. Now I'm going to go back here and we're going to audition the different microphones. Now what you're hearing is completely normal. That microphone is used more for an ambience and, like I mentioned earlier, to get some of the attack back from a darker sounding microphone. I'm going to show you right now what blending this particular mic with one of the other mics will sound like. I'm going to go back to the AKG D112. On this secondary track right over here, I have the other microphone. So let's go over here. I have the Neumann KM84. I'm going to start blending it in. I'm going to isolate it, and then I'm just going to find the right balance between both microphones. Now for me, that alone is pretty cool, blending in those two microphones, but that's something you can do with other softwares. So it's really not the pivotal thing that makes this software very unique. There's some more functionality to the Speakermix Pro that makes it sound even closer to the real microphone in a room with a cabinet, and I'm going to be showing you that in the next examples coming up. Now we're going to audition some speakers with the Vox AC15. I recorded some tracks earlier using the 2 notes captor, so we're just going to be hearing the dry sound from the Vox AC15 set clean. We're going to listen to different speakers. I'm going to select one of them, and after that we're going to audition the different type of microphones, and I'm going to show you a blend between two SM57, one at the front, one at the back, and we're going to listen to what that sounds like. So let's start with the Ruby from Celestion. They all really sound good, but the classic sound of a Vox would either be at the top the Alnico Blue or the Greenback. If you're new to home recording and you've never used a microphone, you might not know some of the more commonly used mics. So the first one is the Shure SM57. You've seen it on live stage, you've seen it in studios, Then there's the Royer R121, which is a ribbon microphone. Then we have the Sennheiser MD421, and then you have another SM57 at the back. So let's have a listen again to the sound of the Alnico Blue with the SM57. Now, one of the things that you will notice with adding that secondary SM57 is you're getting a lot of low end from that back mic. So we're gonna contrast that again on and off, and I'm gonna try to blend it to taste, because if you go overboard with it, you kind of start to hear like some of that muddy and woofy type of low end. So I'm gonna try to do my best to just blend into taste, and then we're gonna contrast with and without. Now that's really cool, and it's usually a setup that practically anyone can do, because the SM57 isn't the most expensive mic. Another mic that is cool to mess around with an SM57 is a ribbon mic. So the Royer R121, we're gonna go select that one for this next example. So now I'm gonna be blending in the R121 to taste. Now I'm going to be using pedals with the AC15. I have the ZVEX Distortron, which I'm going to be using as my main distortion, but then I also have the DoD Carcosa, which is going to be our fuzz. We audition the different speakers. We're going to do mic placement. Also check out the different microphones, how they interact. We're going to blend a secondary microphone just like the other and see if that really works, or if we want to keep it simple and just have the one microphone going for this particular track. I really thought the most balanced representation was with the creamback on this one, which kind of surprises me because I usually go for the greenback. Now I'm going to select the microphone that I want with this particular speaker, and I'm going to go through all the other processes. That secondary SM57 is adding some really cool low end, but now there's a frequency in there that I'm not liking, so I'm going to go in and EQ the back mic just to try to get the right sound that I want. So I'm gonna put both on and I'm gonna be checking out which frequency it is that's bugging me. I've been EQing it in isolation, but I just want to make sure that when I blend it in now, I'm not taking something away that wasn't worth doing in the first place. So we're going to toggle the EQ on and off. It's not perfect, but if I spent more time on it, I would get it just right. But using that low pass filter on that particular back speaker, not back speaker, but back microphone, and notching out that frequency, I could probably tailor it just a bit more, but I'm on the right track. It feels less woofy, because what's going to happen later on if you're using that in a mix and you have too much of those low rumble frequencies, you're going to have to do a whole lot of EQing. Now you can do it right there in the software, and that leaves plenty of DSP for whatever plugin you're going to put in on your track and your recording. Now we're going to move on to the next example. Now we're going to be looking at the Z curve, which is the modeling of the electrical coupling between the amp and the speaker. I'm not too sure how to describe what I'm hearing. It's definitely noticeable when I take everything off. So if I'm listening to the effect full on and then I take it off, I'm hearing something, but I'm not too sure how to quantify it. So let me know if you can hear it and do your best to describe that. Maybe some of us are going to be able to better pinpoint what it is that's going on. So we're going to start with the Z curve off, and then I'm going to subtly take it in, and then I'm going to be doing some drastic move between on and off. Could you hear it? Let me know in the description down below, and let me know what it is specifically that you paid attention to, so that I can come back myself and maybe others and pinpoint exactly what's going on with the Z curve. Now this next feature is called delay. It's the big yellow button just beneath the Z curve on the very first channel strip. Basically what I'm hearing that do is just replicate the sound of a microphone in the room that's picking up some of the delayed sound coming in from your sound source. So in this case, the speaker cabinet just emanating and echoing in the room. And you have between 15 to 40 milliseconds. You can almost get a pretty cool like slapback delay out of this thing. So if you want to use that, it's built in. We're going to have a listen with and without, and I'm going to play with that delay time so we can hear what it does. Here I have the DoD Carcosa going to the Vox AC15, and fuzz is a bit tricky because you're getting almost like full frequency, just this big nastiness of sound, which I think is pretty cool, but sometimes you want to tame some of those frequencies. So we're going to go directly on to the channel strip and try to take out some of the stuff that might be getting in the way of getting a nice clear tone from this fuzz. Now I'm going to contrast the cuts I just made with the original tone and see if it was really worth it to put that kind of effort, or if it's not going to make that huge of a difference. And maybe I just made it suck. So we'll go check it out. If we want to, we can put this here too and try to tame even more of the high end. Yeah, that works for me just in solo. Sounds a little less annoying to me. And obviously a very cool feature. So now if I blend in with the second speaker, so basically what I did there is just band pass that back speaker. I took some of the low end out, but I also took some of the high end from it because it sounded very fizzy, and the high end from the initial track and the second track is just compounding and just building up, which is really not all that pleasant. So we're going to listen to that back microphone again. If I would have wanted to, instead of going individually on both tracks, I could have just used a master EQ and just cut out. Sometimes that's preferable to do because then that's just one EQ that kind of covers everything. But if you want to be more surgical with your EQ, that's a very cool way to actually do it and get some great tones. If you want to bring up the realism of this particular DSR or your impulse response, there is a room simulation in here. Now the room has its own channel strip. Now if you don't like the room that's in there, you can always change the different type of room microphones or upload your own IRs if you have any. So right now I have the pre-delay a bit higher than I would usually feel comfortable with putting, but I wanted you to hear the effect of the room. So let's hear this track. Now what you can do also is blend in your secondary microphone, either the back microphone or a second microphone at the front, and blend that in as well. And then what you can do is EQ the room microphone. So what we're going to do is blend in a second microphone over here. So we can EQ the room, we can EQ the individual tracks, we can add some pre-delay. I mean, this is pretty powerful stuff, and it's not taking that much DSP, which is pretty impressive because that means that we get the sound right at the source. So you have your amplifier, and then you can do, mic placement, choose the right speaker, choose everything. So this is actually very deceivingly complex, but super simple in its operation. We're just looking at a few channel strips and a few buttons, and it's doing so much behind the scenes that we don't have to worry about because everything is right up there for us to do. Now, if we look at the Speakermix Pro as a console, everything would start from the extreme left and move to the extreme right. At the far left, we have the input. That's where we have the Z curve, we have the delay, and we have our input gain. Then we have each of the channel strips that represent the different microphones that we chose. Obviously, you can see over here that we have more than one. I'm only using two because I usually try to keep everything simple. If it doesn't sound good with one or two, layering more stuff on top is not going to work for me. Now, I've talked about the room before, and I said that we could choose different microphones. These are the microphones. So now if we just solo the room and we listen to if you don't like these selections of microphones and you've EQ'd everything, that still doesn't work for you, you can click over here and upload your own IRs. Moving over to the section on the far right, we have the VU meters for the stereo image. We also have our master EQ right over here. There is a link button right there that links the master volume. If you had one side that was louder than the other on your microphones and you pan them and it just doesn't sound equal to you, you could unlink those and then adjust the taste and then relink them. They're always going to move together with this difference in volume. But I'm going to undo that because that's just silly. That's not what I want to do. I'm going to put everything at around 10. Then over here, you can master solo whatever side you want. Next, we're moving to this section over here that has the input and the output VU meters, and you have 3 selections for both the input and the output. Now, the other thing to notice here is the width, which is actually for that stereo effect. So if we listen over here, I have it right now as 0. There's also a mono button right over here. So a pretty practical tool. If you're not going to be using the room or anything in there, it's not something you might worry about. But if you do want to do as much as you can within the Speakermix Pro, that's another cool feature to add in there just to make sure that everything balances out in your mix. If you have something that you think is super cool, you can save whatever you have going on right there as a preset and recall it whenever you need. If you enjoyed this video, there are plenty more like it appearing on screen right now. Click on one of those videos, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Cheers.